Maduro will never forgive China president for selling him air defense where no work. Just imagine. Mama can hear billions of dollars when Maduro take buy air defense from China. We just disappoint them like they just disappoint about the American, but they fly even very close to the ground. Nothing stopped them. The air defense was not working. They have disabled. How was they able to disable the air defense? How were they able to do it? To say it's really that sophisticated. How were America able to do it? And a day before they arrest Nicolas Maduro, China was in Venezuela with Maduro. A day before that day. Just imagine. Oh my God, what China did to Maduro is not good. He just sent Maduro billions of dollars. They sell all those defense. He not defend anything. When I call listening, when I call here, what did China do? Nicolas Maduro. This is very, very sad. Later, go come and say, free Maduro. Free Maduro like what Donald Trump did. No president in the world can do. This is the greatest. America is number one. China go and sleep. Now match on a day.
What Donald Trump did, but you can't deny one thing. The military operation was an undeniable success. They disabled Venezuela's defenses. They swooped in, they captured Maduro and his wife, and they left without a fuss. No casualties, no losses for the US. It tells you how good the US military was. But what about the other side? What weapons did the Venezuelans use, and why did they fail? Well, drum roll, some of them were Chinese. And our story actually begins in the year 2006. That's when the US imposed an arms embargo on Venezuela. The country was cut off from Western weapons. So who did they turn to? The Russians and the Chinese. From 2010 to 2020, Russia made up around 60% of Venezuela's arms imports and China made up around 16.4%. Beijing was the second biggest supplier of weapons to Caracas, and Caracas was Beijing's biggest customer in Latin America. And what sort of weapons did they sell? Well, three systems stand out. First is the JY-27A radar. These are long-range surveillance radars. China says they can even detect US stealth jets. Venezuela installed 7 of these radars in September 2025. Their defense minister was all praise. He said the Chinese radars had successfully locked F-35 jets. Remember, these are the most advanced planes on the planet, the F-35s, supposedly the most advanced. And Venezuela said the Chinese radars had spotted them. Then what happened on Saturday? Experts believe the F-35 managed to suppress the Chinese radars. Basically, the planes jammed the system. So that's one weapon down. Another system that Venezuela likely deployed was the JYL-1. Again, it's a Chinese radar. This one is also meant to track stealth jets. But this too seems to have failed on Saturday. And finally, you have Chinese surface-to-air missiles. Venezuela had the HQ-9 and the HQ-12 missiles. These are supposed to destroy enemy projectiles and jets. But on Saturday, they too appear to have failed. And frankly, it's not surprising. Pakistan deployed these same systems against India, yet Indian BrahMos missiles were hitting Pakistan at will. Now, just to be clear, we do not have conclusive evidence of what happened in Venezuela. Did their systems fail? Were they jammed? Were the operators inefficient? The fact is, we don't know. But here's what we can say for sure. Nearly 150 US aircraft targeted Venezuela, and some of them flew extremely close to the ground. Take a look. $150 American aircraft, some flying close to the ground, and yet no resistance from Venezuela. The United States had complete air control. Clearly, the Chinese weapons did not help. Maybe that's why the Chinese state media is so silent about this. But honestly, this goes beyond weapons. It's political and financial. China has cultivated Venezuela as a crucial ally, a useful partner close to America. This relationship flourished after the year 2000. Since then, Chinese companies have invested $4.8 billion in Venezuela. They also had an oil-for-loan agreement. Basically, China lends massive amounts of money and Venezuela pays the interest by selling its oil to China. This was the arrangement. Until now, China has lent around $100 billion to them. And initially, it worked for both sides. Venezuela found a buyer for its sanctioned oil and China found a new source away from West Asia. It was a win-win. But in recent years, that began to change. In 2024, Venezuela made up just 2% of China's oil imports. Plus, their investments were not paying off. As Venezuela's economy collapsed, so did China's bets. Nonetheless, Beijing did not abandon the partnership. Like I said, Venezuela was a useful ally to have. In fact, President Xi Jinping's special envoy was visiting Caracas on Friday. He had met Maduro just hours before his capture. And even now, China is defending him. They're asking the US to release Nicolas Maduro.
China expresses grave concern over the US forcibly seizing Maduro and his wife and taking them out of the country. The U.S. move is in clear violation of international law, the basic norms governing international relations, and the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter. China urges the United States to ensure the personal safety of Maduro and his wife, release them immediately.
人身安全。
China will be watching the new regime closely. Will they preserve the close ties with Beijing, or will they surrender to US pressure? At the same time, China will also sense an opportunity here. First, to rally the global south. Virtually all developing and underdeveloped countries have condemned the US. Rest assured, China will capitalize on this. And secondly, they will learn lessons for Taiwan. How the US peddled their fake drug trafficking claims, how they began with isolated boat strikes, and how they swiftly decapitated the Venezuelan regime. I'm sure China's military will study all of this closely. Of course, none of that will help if your weapons don't work.